Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing a warm and endearing version of the first generation Lange Söhne 1815 Flyback Chronograph. This is reference 401031. It's the model made from 2004 to 2008, first generation 1815. This is the one that many folks prefer to the second. 39.5 millimeters diameter in rose gold. It is 11.2 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 18.1 millimeters with a standard and universal 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. If you ask why do people prefer this, a lot of it has to do with the specific design of the dial, from the dished outer ring with the pulsometer scale to the lovely alpha hands at center. This is a watch that has a lot going on. People particularly enjoy the staggered track featuring fractional seconds as well as full seconds and minutes. So taking a look at the watch on my wrist, it's got most of the fun of a dotograph without the bulk, being considerably thinner but mechanically almost identical. Again, think about this, 11.2 millimeters thick. That's about a millimeter thinner than a Rolex Daytona. Now across the wrist, 48.1 means it's neither large nor small. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. This feels like a good size. I could advise this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, maybe even 13.5 if your wrist is more flat than round. And you can see, being thin with a domed bezel, it will slide underneath a dress cuff. There's your over-the-top shot. Taking a look at the strap, Lange factory strap, calfskin on the bottom. You can see it is a Lange factory strap in outstanding condition. On the top, you can see we have a large rectangular scale, light brown, semi-gloss alligator leather. We have a monotone stitch. We have a flank that is sheer cut, showing the layers of leather. And then we have a rose gold pin buckle. And you can see that it is faceted with a little bit of a crease between the two facets outboard, and then it's Lange branded on the top. And I always shout this out, so if you're new to my Lange reviews, you're going to hear this for the first time. If you've watched them before, you can skip ahead. But the buckle has an elevated bridge, which means when the strap goes into the buckle, you can see how it sits flush rather than stacking up underneath. It's inside the buckle now, which keeps it clean and flat on the wrist. There's also a retaining bar, which I appreciate, because if you're like me, you've got a small wrist, you can use the smallest hole or punch a smaller hole. Sometimes a very tightly strapped strap can get pinned on the pin. Well, this little bar prevents the strap from falling too low on the pin, making it easier to remove when the time comes. Lange case, very standard. Everything's in polish. The lugs are dramatically stepped out from the case band. The case is cylindrical. It uses Lange's characteristic step back for the case back. So while it is not a thick watch, it appears even thinner than it is when it's on the wrist. And then we've got a very soft bevel on the edge of the lug that expands moving towards the case. We have vintage-inspired rectangular chronograph pushers with a Lange-branded crown, and then a bezel with a slight vertical lip and then a larger domed profile. Now, the dial is made of sterling silver, and you can see that natural color a little bit on the registers. The rest of it is galvanized black. It is a flyback chronograph, which means reset and restart without first having to stop. So this German-made chronograph is excellent for timing events that occur in rapid succession, where you may not have time to do this. You won't miss a beat with the flyback. Now, the watch also has a hacking or stop seconds function. Compared to the dotograph, all it really lacks is a date. We have an instantaneous jumping minute register. We have alpha-style hands in rose gold for the hours and minutes, and this lovely counterweighted lancet-style seconds hand. And then we've got a chaptering outboard that is significantly stepped over the primary dial. Now, this is a pulsometer scale, so what happens is you reset it while you're counting the pulses of your patient, and you count to 30 pulses. And so when you get to 30 pulses, you stop. And if, for example, you stop right on 30, that's 190. So tachycardia probably, but that is the pulse rate of your patient. It works just like that. Now, made in East Germany, state of Saxony, Glashütte, of course, a traditional glass blowing, silversmithing, and watchmaking town, dating back to F.A. Lange founding the modern Lange Company, or at least its ancestor back in 1845. And if we're going to be totally precise, and we're going to respect the lineage of German watchmakers, the direct legal descendant of the original Lange Company is the company now known as Glashütte Original, due to collectivization of all German brands in Glashütte under the communists in the 50s. This Lange Company was founded in 1990 by Walter Lange, Hartmut Knote, and Gunther Blumlein. So this is a modern company that respects the long watchmaking tradition in Glashütte. We have the L951 movement, which is almost identical to what you find on a dotograph. The case back is the same. The only difference is the date, and if it's a dado up down, the date and the power reserve on the dial side. That's why this watch is so thin. Now you get a column wheel, which you can see right here, and a lateral clutch, which you can see right here, and they are poetry in motion. The column wheel feels and sounds superb, and the lateral clutch is beautiful. You can see sharp inward angles where bevels on the steel clutch meet, and then you can also see sharp outward points. That's difficult to do on brass or German silver. Doing it on steel is virtuoso. It's got a 36-hour power reserve, and then it's got a relatively loping and slow pocket watch style 2.5 hertz beat rates. That's 18,000 vibrations per hour. And you can see it uses an overcoil hairspring, so in just about any position, thanks to the centered mass of the overcoil, this watch will keep very consistent time. All of this pivots on 34 jewels, and it is 5-position adjusted, which is the high horology and chronometer standard. Now, of course, we have the instantaneous minute jumper, and we have an enormous balance wheel that's almost the radius of the movement, again, almost like a pocket watch. Everything that's silver on this case back is steel. You could see it's either been mirror polished, in which case it'll turn black as I angle the watch. Very difficult to do, and generally done using a zinc plate or diamond paste, or the steel parts can be satinated across their top, like most of the chronograph components, and then beveled on their edge. The German silver components are the ones that are more gold-hued, the bridges and the plates. German silver is a nickel copper zinc alloy. It's not actually silver. The copper gives it that golden hue, and you can see it's a pocket watch reference because this material was common in the pocket watch days, the heyday of East German watchmaking before World War II. Now we've got mirrored beveling on the edge of these structures as well. You can see that we have freehand engraving of the balance cock. This is done freehand with a burren. No two of these are exactly alike. We have stripes across those bridges. We have engine turning or pegwood perlage on the base plate, and you can see it in several different sizes. We have both polished screws and then fired blued screws, which is beautiful to behold. And then you can see golden chaton cups fixed by screws holding the pivot jewels in place again, a way that jewels were pressed indirectly into bridges and plates during the pocket watch era when it was difficult to press them directly, so precision golden cups would be made, the jewels pressed into those, and then the cups held in place on the bridges and plates using screws. This is a magnificent machine, and frankly, you don't need to go independent to get the best of high horology watchmaking. Lange proves it can be done not just within a larger brand, but within a group-owned brand, always staying true to its German traditions and the modern traditions of fine finish that have influenced everyone from Nomos to Lang und Heine. What we call German watch finish today is largely a product of what Lange established in its early days, the 1990s. It is a trendsetter and a great one. All this is 30 meters water resistant, so don't take it swimming. Otherwise, game on. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.